Yo, what's up, everyone? Tonight wasn't my night. I feel great. I did great. Islam was just better to me than me tonight, and that's okay. I want everybody who loves me and supports me and wants to see me do better. I want you to know that I'm going to be back. I'm not disheartened by this. I'm bulletproof in my mind. I'll be back. I'm 28 years of age. I just fought arguably the greatest fighter we've ever seen in this sport. And I pushed him to the fucking wire. And I'm so proud of myself, and I'm so proud of my team and everything that we've done. I'm so proud of what I've done in this world and who I've become. Nobody's stopping me. Nobody stopped me. Tonight was not my night. Islam, your team, congratulations. You guys did amazing. I have nothing but love and respect for everything you guys have done in this sport. I've said that to you. I'll be back. There's plenty of matchups in this sport, plenty of fun matchups that I'm excited for. We'll be back.
Even when Garry-Makhachev is challenged, he still finds ways.
Yeah, I mean, he did what he had to do and was really tested. You're used to Islam having a certain amount of control and dominance that he just didn't seem to have. Guys like Morales that are absolutely gigantic. Morales kills everybody he touches. Carlos Prates is a murder.
I have to start by telling you guys that Ian Garry was so well prepared that he fought about as good a fight as you can against Garry-Makhachev. But I try to not judge Islam differently than I do everyone else. But the reality is, there was a lot on this kid tonight. There was a lot of pressure on him to go out there and win this fight.
Garry-Makhachev defending the belt against Ian Machado Garry. Now, what was Ian Machado Garry doing? That's the real question, and you might even say, what was he doing all week leading up to it? A lot of people talk shit about Ian Garry. He's a nice guy. He is a nice guy, but a lot of what he just says comes off a little bit weird, like at the press conference. They ask Islam about Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, Habib's father, Islam's longtime coach, and Ian Garry jumps in to try and answer for him to say that, you know, Abdulmanap would be proud. It's things like this that people just find like a little bit cringe. As I say, all my interactions with Ian have been great, and I think you'll see that. He doesn't walk around necessarily talking shit. Like, he even said that to Michael Morales backstage. You might have saw that. There was an interaction where he was like, why are you talking shit? I've always said nice things about you. And then Michael Morales is just standing there while Ian Garry's giving him a lecture, asking him, do you understand this? Do you understand? Do you understand? Do you understand?
All this you talk, it's okay. You make sure you back it up. No, I know. No, I don't know. Whatever story you made up about meeting me, I've never encountered that story. You know that, right?
I understand, bro. I understand that you're getting on my tits and we're going to fight. That's probably what Michael Morales was thinking, but he was being nice because Ian Garry had just lost. And he did lose, as he said, rightfully, to the best pound-for-pound fighter active in the sport right now. Is he the GOAT? We don't know.
I think that, you know, this is my honest opinion on it. I felt like tonight was set up for the upset. I felt like the upset could happen tonight with so much on the line, all the records that Islam has, and he's going to break Anderson Silva's record. There's weight classes for a reason. Ian Garry is a big, rangy, strong guy who has great takedown defense. I mean, if you look at his takedown defense tonight against Islam, it was impressive. I felt like, I think that Ian is a talented guy. If he had even an ounce of killer instinct in that fifth round, you know, he had been beating him to the body. Islam's whole, I think, right side was beat up. His face was beat up. You don't come out and hug and shake hands in the fight. That drives me crazy when there's so much at stake, and there's also, you know, a lot of mental, you know, gamesmanship, whatever you want to call it in this game. You come out in that fifth round with a flying knee or something crazy and you try to finish the fight.
Record, pound for pound, #1 in the world, goes out there, beats Ian Garry. It was a close fight. Ian made that a hell of a fight. Ian Garry should be up there in the pound for pound list. He is actually insanely. That cardio he had, he wrestled really well. He looked good. He didn't get the job done. I don't think his stock goes anywhere. I think his next fight's going to be bigger than ever. Who's next for Garry-Makhachev? We got Michael Morales and Carlos Prates. Michael Morales he's huge. So is Carlos. They're both huge dudes. Morales is coming off a victory over Sean Brady, Gilbert Burns, Neil Magny. Gilbert Burns, I think, was on a pretty bad losing streak, a little bit older. Neil Magny, also a little bit older. KO. His last 3 fights were KOs. So I'm curious, what do you guys want to see? Would you guys want to see Michael Morales? I think Carlos Prates has a little bit more hype behind him. Let me pull up his last 3 fights. Carlos Prates is ranked number 1.
An interesting fight. Islam looking really strong out the first 2 rounds. Getting Garry on his, against the fence. He had the head kick, obviously, which changed things in the fight. I thought when he landed the head kick, he was going to go for blood and get the finish there, but that doesn't end up happening. Listen, credit to Garry for surviving. I thought there were points in this fight where Islam did look like he was going to potentially either win by submission or, get the finish in this fight, but Garry hung on. I would have liked to see a little bit more activity for Garry. I feel like he didn't do a whole lot. He did land some strikes, though. If you go look at the significant strikes, especially in that 4th round, he did outland Islam in a number of cases because Islam was kind of just holding him against the fence. Garry was landing some shots, so Garry did, get some shots in there, and he did, again, steal a round or 2. Well, maybe just 1 round here, I think would kind of be the way we look at it. Just taking that 1 round, the 3rd round being that round, but. I just thought in general, Garry didn't really have Islam in any sort of danger in this fight whatsoever. The one thing we did notice in this fight, and it's, I don't know if it's because he's fighting at 170, but Islam did look a little bit tired. His face was a little bit bloody, swollen, all that stuff. That is something to kind of keep in mind. So it wasn't like a totally flawless performance here for Islam, but one that he did enough to get it done. And listen, forget about Ian Garry, the person. If we focus on Ian Garry, the fighter here, because I think that'll, sort of skew how everyone sort of feels about Garry. And I've been very vocal about my thoughts on Ian Garry, the person.
I knew this was going to be somewhat of a close fight. It wasn't going to be an easy fight for Makhachev, but in the end, I thought he was going to win, and I thought he was going to win by decision. I didn't think he was going to be able to submit Ian Machado Garry or finish him with strikes. So more or less what I expected, and not surprised in either direction, really.
It's interesting, right? Because at the start of the fight, Islam Makhachev having some success. He's able to get the leg. He kind of gets the takedowns, but he doesn't really control Ian Garry on the ground. But then he has that really good head kick where he knocks Ian Garry down. And towards the start of the fight, you're like, all right, this is interesting. At the same time, what was your reaction when you realized, okay, this is just like what you predicted in the staff predictions, where, Islam can sort of out-grapple Garry, but he can't really get him down and do any real damage. And I guess that was, to me, Ian Garry at the start looked like he wanted to almost test that out, kind of feel it out, get himself in those positions, and sort of build a bit of confidence.
Islam Makhachev walked out of UFC 330 still holding the welterweight championship, but the biggest conversation coming out of Philadelphia is not simply that he won. It is how close the fight became, how Ian Machado Garry responded when the fight was there to be taken, and why several respected voices in MMA believe the challenger may have left the cage with more questions than answers. Makhachev won by unanimous decision after 5 difficult rounds, extending his UFC winning streak to a record-breaking 17 victories. But this was not the effortless domination some expected. Garry made him work, found moments on the feet, survived difficult grappling exchanges, and created enough drama that the fight immediately became a subject of debate among fighters, analysts, and fans. And then came the controversy. Because while one side sees Makhachev doing what champions do, finding a way to win even when the fight becomes uncomfortable, another side is asking whether Garry could have changed the result if he had been more aggressive at the most important moments. That question became even louder because of what happened late in the 5th round. Garry had moments where he appeared to have opportunities to push the pace, but instead of turning the final round into an all-out attempt to steal the fight, he continued fighting with the same calculated approach that had defined much of the contest. Dana White publicly criticized that mentality, arguing that Garry needed more urgency and what he described as a stronger killer instinct in those crucial moments. That criticism matters because it is not simply about being aggressive for the sake of aggression. It is about understanding the scoreboard, understanding the clock, and recognizing when a 5-round championship fight has reached the point where tactical patience can become a disadvantage. Garry entered UFC 330 knowing exactly what kind of challenge was waiting for him. Makhachev is one of the most complete grapplers in the sport, and his ability to close distance, chain takedowns together, control positions, and force opponents to constantly defend has made him one of the most difficult fighters in MMA to fight for 25 minutes. Gary's answer was supposed to be distance. He needed to make Makhachev cross open space, punish entries, use his long frame, keep the fight standing, and make every failed takedown attempt cost the champion energy. And there were moments when that strategy worked. Gary's movement and striking range gave Makhachev problems, particularly when the challenger could maintain enough space to attack without getting trapped against the fence. But the problem was that Makhachev did not need to win every exchange. He needed to create enough grappling sequences to repeatedly interrupt Gary's rhythm. That is exactly where the fight became so interesting. Makhachev's wrestling did not simply give him takedowns. It forced Gary to think about takedowns before he could fully commit to his striking. Every time Gary prepared to attack from range, there was the possibility that Makhachev could change levels, close distance, or force him backward. And once the fight entered grappling territory, the champion's experience became extremely important. Analysts within the combat sports community have pointed out that Makhachev's greatest strength is not necessarily one individual technique. It is the way his entire game connects. The threat of the takedown affects the striking. The striking creates opportunities for the takedown. The fence becomes another weapon. And once an opponent is forced to defend, Makhachev can make the next exchange even harder. That is why simply saying Gary had better striking does not explain what happened. The real question was whether Gary could consistently create the conditions where that striking advantage mattered. At times, he did. At other times, Makhachev simply removed those conditions. The champion also scored a head kick knockdown, adding another major moment to a fight that was already difficult to score from a purely momentum-based perspective. But Gary kept fighting, and his resilience became one of the clearest stories of the night. This is where the reaction from professionals becomes particularly interesting. The general sentiment among people who studied the fight closely is not that Gary was exposed as a bad fighter. Quite the opposite. The fight showed that he could compete with one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world over 5 rounds. But competing with Makhachev and beating Makhachev are two very different achievements. And that distinction is now at the center of the debate. Some observers saw Gary's performance as evidence that he belongs at the championship level. Others saw the same fight and came away believing that he allowed a winnable fight to remain too close for too long. That second interpretation became stronger after the final round. Because if you are challenging for a UFC championship and you believe you need a finish or a dramatic swing in momentum, you cannot always fight as though there will be another round. There wasn't. And that is why White's criticism has become part of the larger UFC 330 conversation. But there is another side to this controversy, and that side comes directly from Gary himself. After the loss, Gary did not appear to be searching for excuses. His statement was composed and forward-looking. He acknowledged Makhachev's performance, praised the champion and his team, expressed pride in what he had done, and made it clear that he believes this experience will contribute to his development rather than define the rest of his career. That response is important because a defeat in a title fight can send a fighter in two very different directions. It can create doubt, or it can create clarity. For Gary, the next few months will show which one this becomes. He now has first-hand experience of what it feels like to spend 25 minutes dealing with Makhachev's pressure, wrestling, positioning, and ability to make small adjustments. That information cannot be recreated in a training room. And Gary is only 28. So the question is not whether he can recover from this loss. The question is, what version of Gary returns from it? Because there are obvious adjustments available. He can become more aggressive when opponents are hurt. He can improve his ability to maintain offensive momentum after defending takedowns. He can make his striking combinations more difficult to read and, most importantly, become more decisive when the fight reaches a championship-level turning point. Those are not small adjustments, but they are also realistic ones. And that is why several respected voices have not treated this loss as the end of Gary's championship ambitions. If anything, UFC 330 gave him one of the clearest lessons possible. He now knows that his skill set can survive against Makhachev. The next question is whether it can overwhelm him. There is also an uncomfortable truth for Makhachev. Winning is winning, and the champion deserves enormous credit for getting through a highly competitive 5-round fight. He extended his UFC winning streak to 17, surpassing Anderson Silva's previous record, and maintained his position at the top of the welterweight division. But Garry also showed that Makhachev can be made to work. That matters for the rest of the division. Future challengers now have 5 rounds of information to study. They can examine the moments where Garry succeeded at maintaining distance. They can examine how Makhachev reacted when he was forced to reset. They can look at the exchanges where the champion was uncomfortable and try to build their own game plan around those moments. Makhachev's reign did not become weaker because he won, but his next challengers may become more confident because they have seen a blueprint with real evidence behind it. And that brings us to perhaps the most important part of the entire UFC 330 controversy. Was this a fight Garry lost because Makhachev was simply better? Or was it a fight where Garry had opportunities but failed to take enough risks when the stakes were highest? The answer may actually be somewhere in between. Makhachev's grappling created the circumstances that made Garry cautious. Garry's caution then limited some of his own offensive opportunities, and when the final rounds arrived, the challenger needed to make a bigger statement than simply staying competitive. That is the difference between fighting a champion and becoming one. Makhachev understood that difference. He did not need to make the fight look spectacular. He needed to win the rounds, survive the difficult moments, and leave the arena with the belt. Garry needed something more. He needed to force the champion into a situation where winning was no longer enough. He couldn't quite do it. And that is why this fight will probably be discussed for a long time. Not because it was a one-sided beating. Not because Garry failed to belong. But because there were moments when the challenger appeared close enough to make people wonder what could have happened if he had pressed harder, attacked more aggressively, and treated the final minutes like the last opportunity they actually were. For Garry, that is the painful lesson. For Makhachev, it is another chapter in a historic championship run. And for the welterweight division, UFC 330 may have revealed something even more important. The champion remains extremely difficult to beat, but the path to challenging him is not completely invisible anymore. Now Garry has to decide what comes next. Does he immediately chase another elite opponent and try to rebuild his title case? Does he take time to improve the areas Makhachev exposed? Or does he return with a completely different approach, one that keeps his technical discipline but adds the aggression that critics believe was missing when the championship was within reach? And perhaps the biggest question of all is this: if Ian Machado Garry had fought those final minutes with maximum urgency instead of maintaining his measured approach, could he have changed the judge's decision against Islam Makhachev at UFC 330? Let me know where you stand on that controversy. Was Makhachev simply the better fighter on the night, or did Garry leave a real opportunity on the table by not pushing harder when it mattered most? Subscribe for more UFC news, combat sports reactions, fight analysis, and predictions.